presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
Yum yum, get you some indeed. We'll go ahead and start it off with that. Dano's has a new top, they call them. So for different flavors, they have different colors. They have, I don't even know all of them off the top of my head. I know one of my favorites is like the spicy one, which I think is red. But they have a new one, TJ. And as a fan of the Baton Rouge area, you'll like this one because it's a purple top and it's their Cajun seasoning coming out.
Okay.
I think if you're some kind of VIP, which I don't know why they didn't make us VIPs, TJ, but
they should have.
Yeah, they need to. But if you are some kind of VIP on an email mailing list, maybe you can get that a little earlier. So definitely be sure to check that out. W Energy for your clean energy. Fanplex graphics. I finally found a way to kind of get these things up. And you got your Troy Battle Ready poster here and Welcome to Boone over here for you guys. Those are the smaller posters. You can get kind of full-size posters and a couple other various sizes. So some nice quality stuff there from Fanplex Graphics. Be sure to check them out. And, of course, TSN Off-Road. All right. Got it all covered as far as the ad space goes. So we are into the show. We're ready to have some fun. We kind of lit up Twitter and Facebook and a couple other places with some power ranking thoughts. The Georgia Southern fan base was certainly not a fan.
I was going to say lots of thoughts.
Yeah, there was some thoughts. That's a good way to put it. But yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of fun with it. This is the first time we've had all four of us kind of combine to get a different ranking than what we've seen from just TJ and myself. I know Seth and Marv have both helped out on the kind of the wrap-up show we do on Sunday nights. And I think they kind of wanted to be involved from before. So it's kind of cool to see where it all ended up and what just like one different vote could do to a team who should be in a certain spot. In like 3 of the polls, they're way in a different spot, and they'll end up in a different spot where everyone goes, what the hell are you doing over there? But yeah, I guess I've talked long enough now. TJ, how are you doing today, man?
I am good, brother. I'm good, man. Ready to be back on the show, getting things to it. I know we had a lot of questions about the food show we had last week, or at least I did from my inbox, which is great.
There you go.
So thank you guys for paying attention and reaching out. And those of you that are in the area, what's up, Dominic? Those of you that are in the area, if you ever want some good smoked meats, holla at your boy.
Yeah, that was the first time, sadly, that I've ever gotten to partake in TJ's grilling, and was not let down. Absolutely phenomenal. And the fact that if you guys, I need to cut up the show too, but the fact that he tells you how he did it was really interesting to me, mainly because I was eating it at the time, but also like I don't, sometimes when you don't do this stuff regularly, and I don't do it very well or very regularly, so it's interesting to hear from really an expert on what to do and how to do it. And if you're still not following Thick Thighs and Large Fries, first of all, follow it for the name itself. But if you're not following him on, what do you have? Instagram,
Facebook, TikTok.
Okay.
I mean, those are the 3 major.
Yeah, 3 major ones, definitely, because you'll be mouth watering after watching a few of his clips there, because it's good stuff. In fact, what was it, the day after, or was it the weekend where you were grilling up a whole bunch of stuff, and I was like, man, I picked the wrong day to come over.
Yeah, that was a Saturday. No, was that Sunday? That was Sunday. I had Devin Moore came over, former Appalachian State running back. Really, really great in his time there. But yeah, had him over and his 2 kids and wife, and we cooked there. And then my neighbor asked me to cook some ribs, and so did that, and some chicken wings on the grill, and yeah, had a good old time.
Very nice. I like it. I like hearing all that. I don't think I played your clip here recently. So we're going to go into your live clip breakdown. I'll do my little intro for you. And AJ's asking, okay, so I need to know y'all's outlook for the week ahead in Fun Belt football. Trust me, we will get to that. We've got graphics, score spreads, all kinds of stuff to cover with you in that. But now is, again, my personal favorite time of the show where TJ does his clip breakdowns.
Set, go!
All right, so this first clip. Let me go to full screen here so you all can see what we're talking about. There's going to only be 2 clips, sadly, with the, I don't know, the slight fall off, I guess, the Sun Belt has this year over some past years with some big victories. Not as many of our games are being elevated to the major networks. So only 2 games that were really nationally televised this week. This one comes from the Texas State and Louisiana Monroe game. What you're going to see here is Bryce Bass lined up on the outside here, really completely untouched. But I'm going to let this play through again and let you guys see it one more time, and then have TJ kind of go over what he sees, maybe why this happened. He finishes the game, Bass does, with 3 tackles and 1 sack, which came here on this play. Again, I don't know if it's anything phenomenal he did or if it was a breakdown on the offensive side. Obviously, he rolls right to it, but TJ, take it away here.
Yeah, so what you're looking for on this play, if you do, is design quarterback, it's essentially a naked boot, right? You naked boot out. That tight end is going to skip that outside 9 or that wide 9 technique, and he's going to let him be a free runner, right? The hope is that outside 9 technique free runner is going to chase the running back. That's what the quarterback, and that's what the play is designed to hope for in that scenario. Because if he can get outside of that defensive end or wide 9 technique, then he's got a clear shot at coming downhill, making a good throw. Quite frankly, I don't know that anyone was open on this play anyway. I think they were all covered up. I think the tight end was covered as well as the split receiver out wide. But if you take a look, yeah, he just doesn't chase. And really, if this play works out the way it's supposed to and this defensive end chases, if you see number 2 at the bottom of your screen here, he's still in the backfield. He's going to come scot-free, wide open, and those 2 guys that are up on top of your screen, they're actually setting up to block downfield. So this pass is going to have to be behind the line of scrimmage to avoid any kind of penalty. And he's actually got a lot of space to run out there if they do complete that play. So great job defensively, playing technique and staying outside and having outside contain. So great job. Texas State, though, put it on these boys. It got away from UL Monroe quickly.
Yes, it did. That was, like I said, when I saw it, that's one of those plays where you say, well, it's kind of obvious kind of what happened, but I knew we'd get a little bit more insight on what could have transpired, what should have transpired, and appreciate you breaking that one down. This next play comes from App State in Coastal Carolina. Braden Bennett breaks off his 37-yard run of the night, his longest. He had a total of 88 yards and 3 touchdowns in this one and lit up that App State defense there. He really just goes completely untouched right up the gut. Again, we'll play it one more time and let everyone see this before we slow it down. I don't know if there's anything that you're picking up on here except maybe some of the movement in the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want a lot of misdirection, but one of the key things that sprung him on this play was that tight end coming back across the formation, make that block on that defensive end, right? That is, it's almost so you got your H-back right here in the backfield, right? Now, where the tight end, I guess, yep, your H-back right here, he's going to come across the formation. He's going to kick out that defensive end. And when he kicks out that defensive end, that right tackle is going to go up to the linebacker, right? And when he goes up to the linebacker, those are the 2 blocks that spring this play. So watch him come across your formation. Then you've got your misdirection. That's going to pull that other linebacker out of there. You got misdirection, right? And as soon as he gets across the formation, he's scot-free. So a lot of moving parts on this play. It's a great play design. I hate that they were able to run it and do it well. But that's the kind of play that you run against a team that is ultra aggressive and over pursues, right? Because all you're doing is using their momentum against them. You got some misdirection right here. You've got your linebacker, 55. He's going to bolt out of there, right? He's going to see what we've got going on. And then once he comes across the formation, he's already overrun the play, right?
It looked like a 8-bit really hard too, right here, I think is who he is. But you watch him, he's got his eyes in the backfield. I think he's looking at the motion man, maybe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like that may be what he did.
And then safety's coming down to take pitch man. And then once he does, there's nobody back here to contain. So excellent play call, great execution, even better, and really good block to spring him by that H-back or tight end, whichever you want to call him.
Yeah,
they'll answer to either.
Yeah, that's true. I was like, H-back. Yeah. Oh, and then you're like, no, the other one, the other H-back. Oh, man. Yeah. So that's why I'm not the expert. And TJ is. And Ben is saying he can't wait for the basketball show. Yeah, we did just announce our first live basketball show will actually be tomorrow night. We're doubling up. Tonight, football. Tomorrow night, basketball. So hopefully we can get better. We got some live Rumble watchers, which it's hard for me to keep up with the Rumble stuff, but I love it. I know it's a platform that's kind of growing and getting a little bit bigger. And Seth wanted to chime in on the defense there.
Yeah, I would say so, Seth. I would absolutely say so.
Specifically on that play, yeah, very much a heaping pile of garbage on that one. But again, credit to Coastal Carolina for that play specifically and how they played and how they brought the atmosphere. I know, again, TJ, you and I have been down there for a game. Atmosphere was phenomenal. Obviously, we were doing the live show last week from your back deck at your house, so we were not able to take that one in, but it was coming across the TV pretty early that there was a lot of energy in that stadium.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been to Coastal a couple times. One of the times I was down on the field and I had to walk past their student section to get to our sideline, and boy, they let me have it. I think the only one bright spot that I had was, obviously this is well after my playing days. I happened to have that night, and I never wear them, my national championship ring on. So I couldn't say a whole lot, but all I did was just kept pointing to my ring the whole time. And I just kept saying, you guys will never get one of these. So I just made my way over to the sideline. So that was my only claim to fame. And this, again, was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. We were down in Coastal at Myrtle Beach. A buddy of mine his parents own a beach house, or I'm sorry, a timeshare down there. And we were able to get it for essentially free. So
nice.
Yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you can't
recommend
free. Or even discounted. I'll take discounted beach property. Rental.
Absolutely. I'll take even if I had to pay. It's the beach. I'm going to the beach.
Yeah, exactly. That was one reason TJ and I put together our rankings for like the best spots for certain things over the summer, and TJ and I both had Coastal up there for location. Made a lot of people mad actually, but I was like, I mean, just about everybody goes to the beach at some point over the summer. You talking about you can go to college there? Come on. Anyway,
right.
I digress. One shout out to Troy Trojans, who lead at the half against Arkansas in basketball right now. So a phenomenal early looking score there. We'll certainly be talking about that one with Zach Capps tomorrow on the basketball show. But right now, getting back into the Week 12 preview. As you can see on screen, we've got all kinds of matchups we are going to get to for you guys tonight, but I do want to start off by giving a shout out to the Bednarik Award semifinalist from Marshall, Mike Green, and just a sophomore there, edge rusher, leads the nation. Yes, full clap. Leads the nation in sacks, technically tied for first, but he leads the nation in sack yardage with over. It's exactly 107 yards, and the guy closest to him has 90, so he's 17 yards better in sacks in the yardage aspect. So phenomenal year for Mike Green. Marshall fans, turn your ears off and look away from the screen because he may not be there next season.
Right.
I hope for you guys he is, or if he decides to maybe declare for the draft, whatever. I hope the best for his future, and for sure, if you are a Marshall Thundering Herd fan, enjoy it while it's lasting right now, because this is a phenomenal talent. And for those of you who haven't caught a Marshall Thundering Herd game yet, this weekend is a great opportunity. We'll get into why, but again, you're going to notice this guy immediately on the defensive side of the ball. So be sure to check him out. And congratulations again to Mike Green, the only Sun Belt player named to either the Bednarik or Maxwell Award semifinalist list. So in really, really good company nationally across the board. So absolutely great job to him, and certainly a shout out. Okay, before we get into the power rankings, we'll go a quick look at the standings. Won't spend much time on this, but we've got two teams tied atop the East, Georgia Southern and Marshall, that we just mentioned, both tied at 4-1 apiece. ODU and JMU, great matchup this weekend, both tied at 3-2 in the standings right now. And obviously the tiebreaker will certainly become an aspect of that this weekend. Coastal Carolina sits at 2-3. App State 2-4. Georgia State still looking for their first Sun Belt victory this upcoming weekend. The Cajuns on the opposite side of that stand first place in the West at 5-0. Texas State 2-2 right now, sitting above three win teams in Arkansas State, South Alabama, and ULM. But it's the winning percentage that has them there in second place because they haven't played as many games as everyone else as of yet. Then we follow that up with a 1-4 Troy team and finish it out with another winless team in Sunbelt action on the west side in Southern Miss. Okay, so that's a look at the standings real quick before we show you what sparked some controversy across the social aspects, the social realm, I guess. I don't know, if there's some kind of, it's hard to say. It was just one specific area where it got kind of lit up. It was even popular on Reddit as well. Okay, so here it is. I think, and TJ, I don't know if I even let you know this, but it was pretty clear. There was only 2 unanimous locations of teams for these power rankings. The Cajuns took number 1 for every single one of us, all 4. And the exact same thing happened for number 14, Southern Miss. I don't think we need any explanation on either one of those, right?
Yeah, pretty obvious. Yeah, I mean, one's very, very good. One is not very good. So pretty obvious there. There is some differences that I saw in terms of what my list is. I know this is a compilation of all of us, but yeah, this is fairly. There's some traffic if you're looking from 2, especially 2 through 5. I know there's a lot of shaking up. People are upset in those areas, but and we'll get into why that is here shortly. But yeah, I'll let you take it, Don. Listen, I think, I think I had Georgia Southern at 2, or no, maybe I had JMU at 2, Georgia Southern at 3, and Marshall at 4.
Yes,
so maybe flip Georgia Southern and Marshall. And I know a lot of Georgia Southern fans were kind of up in arms about it because of the head-to-head, right?
Yeah.
I just think that JMU's a better overall football team. And I think if they played 9 more times, JMU would win 9 more times. That's my main explanation for it. I think they just caught them on a good day. And it's no different than if ODU played App again, right? If ODU played App again, they would beat App probably 9 more times.
Yeah, that's I won't disagree with you on that. Having been at that game live too was I mean, I don't know how many times we all talked about it in the stands, like, man, we got lucky there. Because they were shooting themselves in the foot more than App was really getting the stops defensively. I mean, you do have to give some credit to the defense, obviously, because the turnovers don't just happen all by themselves all the time. But yeah, I mean, what was that first drive where they went 87 yards or something on the first pass play of the game, and then they fumbled it and didn't come away with any points. And a game with a 1-score game at the end, that's a big deal. So those were the only 2 spots that were completely locked up, as mentioned. Everybody else had somebody in a different spot. Well, what's interesting here is, and we'll get into this right now, we'll just go ahead and dive in. JMU claimed second place for 3 people. Okay. So that's one reason they're at number 2. The other reason is because I had them down only at 4. So aggregate score-wise, they're still really high as far as that is concerned. Marshall being at by the way, 2 through 4 was like razor thin. I mean,
yeah. I mean, the margin for error 2 through 4. I mean, you could slice it with a freaking butter knife. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah.
And the one argument everyone kept making was the head-to-heads.
Yeah.
When it just happened, yes, you kind of have to lean towards that. But let's make an example here of I guess ODU versus Georgia Southern. I mean, ODU beat Georgia Southern, but we don't have them above them.
Right.
Like you had mentioned, it's not always going to be equal because you can't keep losing games, right? I mean, I don't know. We had App State beating ODU. App State's halfway up down the list compared to where ODU is currently sitting at 12. So you can't just rely only on head-to-head all the time. But yeah, we could just jump over to the personal ones for a second. You can see where TJ and myself ranked everybody. I didn't list Seth's and Mars. We'll kind of reveal those on Sunday's show. Well, they probably pretty much thought process may have changed by then. But here's TJ's and myself's for the week. I had Marshall at 2. I feel like I trust Marshall a little bit more than some of the other teams at this point.
Certainly
defensively. Yeah, exactly. I trust their defense to be very consistent compared to others. Their offense has had their moments, but I trust Braylon Braxton to get it done. I like the fact that he's kind of the guy instead of doing this between him and Stone Earl flip-flopping.
Right.
I think Earl's probably still going to see some snaps every once in a while just to kind of give that wildcat or the threat of a trick play type of thing. But I think Braxton obviously is your guy moving forward. On the opposite side of that, why do I have Georgia Southern below Marshall when Georgia Southern clearly won that game against Marshall? They clearly won the game in the end, but it looked pretty bad before then, right?
Yeah.
They had the same thing happen against South Alabama. Okay. J.C. French gets knocked out in both of those games. One's because a missed concussion call or targeting call, frankly. The other one was, a finger to the eye or some type of thing or person getting French in the eye, whether purposeful or accidental, I'm sure we'll never know. But the thought process that I have is the defense, okay? Question marks. I think it's fair. And the other big process that I have was Dexter Williams is now gone from the program. Guess who led you to 2 comeback victories over Marshall and South Alabama? A guy named Dexter Williams. So he's now gone from your team. That option, that threat is now no longer there. So are we going to see games that would have ended differently twice? Again, I didn't hurt them that bad for that ranking, right? I still have them at 3, which, TJ, you have them at 3. I don't know if you want to give your reasonings for having them at 3 too.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, for me, them being at 3 is not so much what they did wrong, more of what I think JMU would do had they played again, right? And it's no different than if Georgia Southern played ODU again. I'm giving Georgia Southern to win 95% of the time. Same way with ODU playing App, right? Sometimes you just catch a team on a good day.
Yeah.
And App was having a good day. ODU was having a good day against Georgia Southern. And I think Georgia Southern was having a good day against JMU. I think if you give them that shot again, I think JMU wins. So that's literally my only line of thinking for having them at 3 versus 2. But the margin for error is very, very slim, right? It's not that they're not light years ahead of them. And if I had to put money on a point spread right now, JMU -2 maybe. Yeah.
It would be razor thin there too. You're right. I think the same thing. And we've got some interesting point spreads this weekend too that I've seen.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm looking at it as we speak.
Yeah, hopefully they haven't moved. I grabbed these things like before 5 o'clock today, so I didn't. Usually I try and grab it right before the show so it doesn't move. But we'll see if you got anything different from what we've got on screen for the graphics here in a minute. RD Cat saying, "Hey guys, Texas State moving on up." That they are. I don't know if that performance was insanely impressive, but that weather down there for that game was pretty bad.
I think it's impressive for one reason alone. ULM's defense has been very, very good this year, right? And for them to be able to score, I think it was 21 points at halftime, it was extremely impressive. Or was it 28 at halftime? I can't remember exactly what it was. I know it was 28-0 in the third quarter, like 11 minutes left in the third quarter. But I can't remember if they scored that 4th touchdown after halftime or before. Either way.
It was after halftime. I'm trying to think what the halftime score was. I'm going to pull it up now while you keep going.
Yeah, I think it was 21-0 at halftime, right? So you're talking about a team scoring 21 points against a ULM defense who has only averaged, I think it was 27 points per game before that week, right? So now you're talking about running it up and being able to score. So that to me was more impressive. Texas State, and that's why they moved up a little bit on my chart as well, because I didn't want to give them a ton of credit for beating ULM, but then once I went back and started thinking about it, and I'm like, well, ULM's defense has been really, really good over the last several weeks. Now, the last 2 weeks, not so great, right? But prior to this, they played some fairly good football. Now, what my fear is that these 2 losses might reel them, right? They might be reeling after this, and who knows? My hope is that they bounce back. I got to look at what their remaining schedule is.
We've got Auburn this week, that's for sure. And just to fact check us, it was 28-0 at half. You were correct, I think, to start with. I know you were thinking maybe 21, but I think you had said 28 at one point. So that's what it was. It was 28-0 at half.
So you put 28 points up on a team who gives up only 27 for a game, and you put it up at halftime, right? And that's the impressive part to me for Texas State, regardless of weather.
And ULM before that game, 4-0 at home.
Right. So and we talked about a bit ULM's remaining schedule. They've got Arkansas State, very winnable, but then they've got Louisiana. We can almost chalk that up as an L. So they'll go 2-1 or 1-2. I'm sorry, over the next 3 games.
Likely in as far as Vegas odds are concerned, I'd say that's probably true.
So I say that to say they're 5-4 right now, right?
Yeah.
They got to beat Arkansas State to be bowl eligible. They won't beat Auburn and they won't beat Louisiana. So Arkansas State is their only shot at getting bowl eligible. I think if you told this team last year, based on where they finished, that they'd be in a spot to be bowl eligible, that in itself, you know what I mean? Like, they call you crazy. So it's an impressive season. And I say that as if it's already over, assuming it goes the way that I think and you think Dom is going to go. It's been an impressive season, and let's hope that we can, fingers crossed for them, that they can beat Arkansas State and get ready for a bowl game.
Yeah, I'd love to see it just for those fans down there that I won't lie, I gave them a hard time. I mean, I know the weather was bad, but there was very few people in those stands for that. Certainly far less than I think what 13,000 they announced or something. Yikes.
Definitely not
tickets sold on that one.
Yeah, well, weather is weather, and you can't predict it. Well,
I mean, it's going to affect everybody, to be fair. So we'll have to see. Ben is saying ULM does not play well at Centennial Bank Stadium, but I would venture a guess that history will have a hard time repeating itself with a whole new coaching staff and a whole new roster. Those things now with the parity in college football are going to – I don't know how those like traditional historical aspects are going to hold up. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Well, and you got that factored in, and going back to Ben's comment, they know, right? I mean, obviously, you're going to go out and you're going to give Auburn the best you can, right? You're going to give them the best, and there's no guarantee that they're going to lose to Auburn. Anything can happen on any. I've been a part of some teams that beat some teams that we weren't supposed to beat, so it could very well happen. But I know that if it doesn't, the emotion of going into a game, right, that you know your bowl eligibility depends on it. I think that you might set the tone for that. Now, again, might not matter. And the difference, I think, for Louisiana or maybe Arkansas State is I think Arkansas State's already bowl eligible, right? Or do they need one win?
No, not yet, but I think they're one win away.
Okay. So depending on their strength of schedule, and if they win this week, because they've got Georgia State. So you got 2 things at play here. Arkansas State beats Georgia State, I assume. Right? They beat Georgia State, right? So they become bowl eligible because they're 5-4 now. So they become bowl eligible on Saturday, right? My guess is that ULM does not become bowl eligible against Auburn. So you got one team that's already bowl eligible, riding their high horse. They're excited. They think, we've already got a bowl game locked up. There's nothing we can do to lose this at this point. And you got another team that comes in. They need this game to win in order for them to be bowl eligible. The 2 attitudes might be different. It's all I'm saying. So,
makes sense.
That factors in. Emotionally, that factors in. So, sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it, man. But just to touch back on the rankings one more time, 8 through 10, I think, was the really looking at 6 through 10 was just another razor thin margin where I literally had to break out like the calculator to figure out exactly where some of those teams should be placed. Because there was such a disparity between where some of these teams ended up. So, again, shuffle a deck of cards, flip a coin, whatever you want to say, 6 through 10, that's going to be sorting itself out a lot over these next couple weeks of the season. I think the bottom's going to pretty much stay where it's at, and I think it's going to look very similar at the end of the year. But again, this is where everybody was ranked for us individually on this show right now between Dom and TJ. Again, a lot of the top staying the same, a lot of the bottom staying the same, and then a lot of the movement was really in that middle section. And I think that's kind of where we're going to see some more sorting out, but not to say it's done at the top. Could certainly continue to get interesting there. Which one do we have next up here? Oh, okay. Well, we're into the first matchup of the weekend. Again, no weekday games, so it's kind of nice to put this together and not feel like we got to rush to preview some stuff that's coming up tomorrow night or anything like that. We have the 5-4 Warhawks traveling to Jordan-Hare to play Auburn, who's just 3-6 on the season, obviously in the SEC. So it's a little bit different schedule that we're talking about there. Some pretty powerful teams that they're going up against. So even with a team coming in with a better record, you're looking at a spread that favors Auburn by 24 points. Live, is that any different right now, TJ, or is it still 24?
Yeah, still 24 points. The total has gone up by a point, though. 46.5 is the total.
Okay.
So I mean, I'd say that's about right. You know, spread might be a little far out. I mean,
yeah,
ULM's defense is not that bad. 24. Well, then again they gave up 28 first half points to Texas State, so they might do the same with Auburn. Who knows? And I think that's probably factored into what ESPN is saying here. So.
Yeah, they've certainly struggled mightily against Texas teams this year because obviously it was week 3 or 4. I think it might have been week 4, actually. They played Texas and got walloped pretty good there. The other thing you've got to think about here is ULM is on a 3-game skid, okay? They've lost to South Alabama, Marshall, and Texas State 3 consecutive weeks. So that's not going to have anybody thinking, upset special is around the corner. Having said that, and again, this is a far different schedule, but you do have to mention that Auburn's won only 1 game out of their last 5 as well. Now, those teams have been Oklahoma, Georgia, Missouri, Kentucky, who they actually did get that victory over, and then Vanderbilt. Yeah, it is a strange one because Kentucky's been ultra competitive against a lot of really good teams this year.
Yeah, Kentucky beat
Georgia.
Georgia.
Go in there and hold them to 10 points and score 24 them on their own. I didn't see that one coming.
No.
But yeah, this is an interesting one. Like Artie says here, let's go ULM. I would love to see an upset of Auburn. I think it was just last year they dropped that game to New Mexico State, I think it was, at home. And then New Mexico State went on to play Liberty in the conference championship game. So it could happen, but it's not likely. If you're going to do anything here, I don't think I'd take ULM straight up. Maybe you think they can cover that 24-point spread. Maybe you think that that's the other part of this, though, that's hard for me to trust is ULM, even as good as they've looked this year, that offense is not putting up the points needed to kind of overcome the other side there. So I'm like, oh man, do they get walloped?
I got them maybe scoring 14.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, and that's a maybe. If they score 17, that's a win.
Yeah, and are you saying that didn't New Mexico State beat the Tigers last year?
Yep, you said that.
They did. Yeah, he was probably typing that as I was saying it, so I didn't see it just a second. But yeah, this would be a phenomenal one to get on the record, especially since we can list it as an SEC victory. But unfortunately, I don't have high hopes for this one if we have to be realists about it. Okay, so that one gets wrapped up. That's the only out-of-conference matchup. Those are pretty rare at this point of the season. Anyway, now we have one that's pretty interesting here. Let me grab my apparel for this one. As Marshall hosts the 75 game there. This was a baseball hat for them this past season. Pretty phenomenal stuff there from
nice.
No free ads. But yes, they host the 75 game. This is not really a celebration. I guess it's, obviously a remembrance game for the plane crash. They're going to have the helmet that's got the stripe down the center that lists every single person that was on that plane, all 75 of them. That's why it's called the 75 game, because 75 people unfortunately perished in that. I don't know how many of you already know this, but I thought I'd just cover it just to make people aware in case they want to know the significance of this, or if they turn it on and see Marshall wearing some special items during this one. It should be a really interesting game. I don't want to say like awesome atmosphere because obviously it's kind of like a memorial type game as well.
Sure.
But they do have some pretty cool swag to go along with it. If you're a fan of some collectibles and something that's a kind of an important piece to college football history and lore. But yeah, they play host to Coastal Carolina, who's coming off that big victory at home over App State. Got to ask if they can keep it rolling. And like you said, TJ, earlier, they're at 5 wins. They get bowl eligible with a victory in this one. Marshall obviously already bowl eligible, but fighting for that number 1 spot in the East. And they come in favored at home by 9 points. Is that still correct, or is that one moved too?
No, 9.5 moved up by half a point. So,
okay.
So here's the way I look at it, right? Artie Cat says Marshall dominates. I'm leaning towards Marshall dominating for one particular reason only, and that is Marshall's defense. They've been very consistent all year long. We talked about their defensive end already and how well he's played this year. App State, let's be honest, is not a very good football team. So that was not a very good litmus test for Coastal. Marshall will be, right, in terms of how well Coastal can play against them. Coastal has a good team that's high-powered offensively, but I don't think that they'll be able to fly as high as they did, so to speak, against Marshall as they did against Appalachian State. So I'm taking Marshall. 9 seems like a lot. I'd be happier with 4 or 5. I think it'll be a little bit closer than that. 56 points is probably on par. You're talking 26, 27 points each. So probably on par with where it should be. But I think it's Artie Cat says Marshall rolls. I don't know that they'll roll, but I got them winning by. I'm thinking probably if I had to pick a score, 38-34, 38-31.
Okay. So you got Coastal still putting up a good amount of points, though.
Yeah, because they can. They're capable of it. I think they can certainly put up a lot of points, but I think Marshall is also capable of putting up points as well. And I think they'll get one more stop than Coastal will.
Okay. I could see this one being a little bit more closely, I don't know if the related is the right word, but a little similar to maybe the Virginia game that Coastal played earlier this season. Note they did drop that one 43-24. I'm not sure about that final scoreline in this one, but I could see it kind of mirroring that type of a game where there's a kind of obvious better team, but Coastal can never really go away. They might threaten a couple times, but it kind of feels comfortable towards the end that Marshall's going to take care of business. Like you said, it's the defense that's got me thinking that against Marshall, like you said as well. App State really wasn't the strongest test of that last week. App State's offense actually outperformed Coastal's offense when you break down first downs and total yardage. So there is that aspect of App State that is still a big-time threat. You will see that same type of thing with Marshall, but they've also got that more equilibrium, maybe if you want to say it, across the offensive and defensive side. And I'll be able, and I think they will be able to shut down that Coastal offense a little bit better than what App State was able to provide last Thursday night. So I've also got Marshall winning. I'm probably comfortable taking the 9 points there if I had to. I don't know if I would, but if I had to, I'd lean towards that than being really strongly the opposite direction. So I think I agree with you there on that one. Plus, again, this is a big time, meaningful game for multitude of reasons.
I was going to say for both teams, both emotionally and for what it's going to do record-wise for them. Obviously, Marshall's fighting for first place in the East, and Coastal's fighting for a bowl champion or a bowl bid. So, yeah, symbolic for both teams.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Be sure to tune into that one Saturday on ESPN Plus. Again, a lot of extra stuff going to be going on throughout that game. All right, another game Saturday on ESPN Plus. This one at 4 Eastern, 3 Central time. We've got the team, the fan base that hates us the most right now, as Georgia Southern plays host to the Troy Trojans. I think I'll take my Marshall hat off now so that get back to no favoritism. But Yeah, the Eagles come into this one 6-3 overall. Again, 4-1. They are the only team in the East that is actually in control of their own destiny. So as long as they do not lose, they will find themselves in the conference championship game and being the representative of the East. In the West, that was Troy last year. Obviously, they're closer to the bottom this time around with a new coach, some injuries, and a whole new roster of guys as far as the ones that took over for the guys that left the program after last season. So no bowl for Troy this season, even if they win out the rest of the way. Georgia Southern only a 7.5-point favorite, 54.5 total. That one change, or is this one similar?
Still the same.
Okay. I would be, this is what we just talked about in the power ranking. So we'll just talk about it quickly here too. It's which team shows up. I literally used this phrase earlier today, Jekyll and Hyde, right? You've got the teams that have been kind of bad or non-existent for Georgia Southern in that first half, and they have to have some massively big comeback at the end of the game to win it against South Alabama and Marshall. But then you've got the game against JMU where they looked really good. Again, that one was at home. This one's going to be at home. And then on the opposite side of that, you've got the ODU game where they got blown out on the road. So that's why the 7.5 points scares the hell out of me as far as like thinking strongly that they could cover that, because we've seen Troy earlier this season go toe-to-toe with Iowa for a while, and Iowa's a pretty good football team. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm looking at it the same way you looked at it. I mean, we'll say the one thing about the Iowa game is that Iowa is never a defensive powerhouse. Already Troy about to suffer another beatdown. God, it's so hard to say because, like you said, I mean, Georgia Southern has not been consistent. And in terms of they're consistently winning, but how they win is so inconsistent, right? It's just like one game they win by a couple points or a touchdown, and then another game they blow teams out. So it's like, well, I don't know. 7.5 scares the hell out of me. Point total, I will say, is probably on par. Right, I'd say I take probably the over on point total, just because I know, again, if Georgia Southern plays the way we think they can play, 7.5 is not enough, right? They'll win by 14 at least if they play the way that we think they can play, or that they have played and are capable of playing. Problem is, I don't know that will happen. So that's why the 7.5 is, in my opinion, where it is. So I'm obviously picking Georgia Southern to win. I don't believe in Troy at all this year, which is so strange to say. It just feels odd coming out of my mouth.
All right, so go to Warren's question below. Troy, he thinks Troy will either win Georgia Southern or Louisiana. I guess he thinks there's probably no chance they win both. If you had to pick one of those two games, I'm assuming you're picking this one here, but okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
No chance of upsetting the Cajuns, huh?
No, and the reason is because Louisiana has too much riding on it at this point. They know to be perfect in the West is a massive feat, and I think that they're not. I think they know, and they're well coached enough to know not to take any team for granted. That said, though, it's back to this game, I guess. I mean, if Troy was going to surprise people, this would be the game they surprise people against. I just don't see it happening.
I think I'd agree with you there. I would definitely say this is the more likely upset for Troy to spring than Louisiana. I don't know. Like you said, Louisiana's got a lot to play for, and we'll talk specifically about them in their matchup that's coming up here soon too. Georgia Southern logo needs an update. It looks like 90s Photoshop graphic. Uniforms are cool, an old school look. Yeah, there's a lot of people. This is a very similar look to what Penn State puts on the field. A lot of people are a pretty big fan of that. It's very not unique. But it's very traditional. It's very identifiable. I do agree. The logo could probably use some sprucing up. You've got some pretty cool graphics across the board in college athletics these days, and this one definitely does look a little dated. But I don't know. Yeah. They have an old school one with that bigger eagle. That it's a little busy. But I do like it better than this one here. This one's definitely like a cartoonish looking Gus the Eagle, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I will say uniform wise, I mean, don't ever change that. That's classic. Alabama, Penn State, Georgia Southern. Those are the only three that come to mind when I think of this type of uniform. So don't ever change that.
Yeah, I think the simplicity works really, really well. Like, don't go from this to like some of those abominations of like too much going on. Like,
yeah. And the crazy thing about, speaking of, and this is me going to App State, I actually think the jerseys now look better than the jerseys when I played, because they're plain.
Oh yeah,
they just got the 3 stripes, and then it's the all black, and then it's the white numbers with the yellow outline, and it's just clean. And that all black is just, I mean, obviously that's superior, right? All black or all white is always going to be superior. It's just crispy. But
wait, you don't like this one?
What? I don't mind. So I don't mind that one. I'm just talking about the ones that I played in. That one I did not play in. The ones that I played in,
I got you.
Were a little busier. We had the yellow and white stripe going across the chest. It was good. Yeah. It was nice. I liked it. I wish I had. I don't have. I don't think I have.
While you're looking, I want to point out why I like this one specifically. So this was the Yosef logo kind of coming back for the very first time. Before it became a little bit more evident in what they're kind of doing these days. You got it right there in the middle and very small, the always attack. I thought that was cool. That's specifically why this one got framed up, because it said that there. And then that mark on the sides there is one of my favorites, because so many other people didn't like it. I think was also part of the allure on that one. But you got a picture for it? Yeah,
I don't know if you guys can see it. But yeah, this was us back in the day, right? This was the Michigan picture, us kicking a game-winning field goal. It's just a lot, right? It's just busy. Sleeves, and then it's just, and this is a view from the behind, right? Pause. But this is what it used to look like. So yeah,
nice. Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually dislike that one at all, but
no, I didn't hate it. It's just these are better. The new ones.
Well, also at that point, I think it was right after that game, probably the contract got offered. But at that point, you guys were still in Russell. At that point, it was not Nike yet, right?
No, we got Nike my sophomore year after the first national championship.
Oh, okay. So you were in Nike before.
Was it my sophomore year or junior year? We got Nike. No, it was sophomore year. We got Nike sophomore year.
Okay. Yeah, see, Artie likes it. But, most people hated this because it was not black. I guess a lot of people aren't fans of the yellow, the gold uniforms either. I'm a big fan of that. I just like it sticks out. I mean, like, I don't know, App in West Virginia, there's some of the only schools that have that color that is a focal point. Well, Cal's kind of close, but theirs is a little bit more yellow. This is kind of that, what do they call it? Like university gold or something like that.
I can't remember.
But anyway, we got off topic enough on that one. But jersey talk is always fun. We'll have to do like a specific episode on that where we go through the jerseys in the Sun Belt and rank them up or something. But speaking of some, I don't know how it's transitioning there, so I'll just forget that part. But the Royal Rivalry continues. James Madison on one side, ODU on the other. This one happening in Norfolk. Again, ODU trying to battle and get to a bowl game. Currently only 4 wins on the year. They're going to need to win these last couple games to get bowl eligible. And they're tied currently in actually overall head-to-head, which I believe is 3-3 in this all-time series. Most of those games actually taking place back in FCS. So this one's important for that aspect. But JMU already bowl eligible, but still trying to fight for that top spot in the East. Again, ODU could do that too with a win here. Owning the tiebreaker, I don't know. What do you think? There's Alonzo Barnett here on one side, Page on the other side. What's going to happen?
Your guess is as good as mine. And the reason I say that is because if this is the ODU team that played against App State, they get beat by 1,000,000. But, if this is the ODU team that we've seen majority of the season, then who knows? They've got a good shot at beating JMU. We both, I think, have JMU on our top 3 for a reason, right? JMU is a really good, consistently good football team. And I'm more impressed with JMU based on what they lost in terms of Signetti and then the rest of, a lot of the players that he took with them, and the way that they were able to bounce back and be 7-2, right? So, and still be in contention, or really, I think, be leading the East or in that spot where they can win the East. So It's a hard one to predict. The spread is JMU -3 for a reason, because it is one of those games where a field goal could determine it, based on how these teams play. Again, if ODU comes out and lays an egg like they did last week, they're going to get beat by 40. But if they play like they played the most of the season, they'll put a pretty good fight. I haven't given you a straight answer yet because I don't have one.
Right. I was going to say, I'll let you hold on to that because I've got some stuff I can throw out. Maybe this sways you or gets you to commit one way or another. And I do want to, G. Wills has corrected us, or corrected me specifically. He's saying 2-2 on the all-time record, not 3-3. This is for the third win in the series. I knew there was a 3 in there somewhere. It's because one of the teams is looking for their third victory in this head-to-head matchup. So thank you, G. Wills, for the correction there in this one. And also says Artie still concussed after that whooping in Norfolk. So yeah, we gotta love the trash talk. This is why we do some of the stuff we do. So this is a great thing. The interesting aspect to me in this one is this, like you said, 3-point game, very thin margin, but these teams have to show up in their best form and fashion to win this one because it won't be easy for either side. I think both of these teams are hot, and obviously with a rivalry, with the intensity, had Mickey Matthews, who you know very well from your playing days, TJ, just coming out and saying he hates ODU. I want to kick their ass, he said multiple times on the JMU Sound Off podcast this week. So really dislikes ODU, never beat them while he was coach at JMU, which is part of the aspect of why he hates them so much. But here's the interesting part. I'm going to finally get to this in a roundabout way. Those 2 recent losses for the Dukes, okay, 28-14 to Georgia Southern, 21-19 to ULM, both came on the road. So in their last 5 games, 3 victories at home, 2 losses on the road. This one also on the road at ODU. This one is a historically close series overall as far as the scores of these games are concerned. Again, with the parity in college football, those types of things probably mean a little bit less than they used to back in the day because so many things have changed. But you do have to maybe take it into consideration because they're hearing it throughout the week a little bit more than they do against a team that's not a rival. I don't know, TJ, as a former player here, unless it was a big rivalry like Georgia Southern, do you even know what like the all-time series is? Do you care? Is it something you hear about or
no? Georgia Southern, and I think really that was it because initially Western Carolina was a rival for us, but we beat them by 1 million every time we played them. So, and that's no shot at Western. To all my people who went to Western that are watching, love you guys, but that just wasn't a good thing.
It's a good thing it's an audio podcast because they can't read, so we at least can cover that one.
Well, there's that. He said it, not me. But yeah, our technical rival was Western, and we paid attention to that just because they never beat us right while we were there. Right. I think the year prior, I think they lost to Western in 2004. I'm not entirely sure. But after that, they never beat us my time there, and I don't think they beat us ever again after that. So unless it's Georgia Southern or, in that case, Western, I'm trying to think, is there anybody else we had like a definitive rival? JMU was always a rival for us just because we just didn't like them.
Well, they were also winning. They had won a national championship really – was it 2004? So right before y'all's, right? Is that the last – I think that was –
I believe so. I can't remember.
So that's probably why, because they're up there at that time. But I'll throw out one more. Furman, right? That was kind of a big rivalry.
Furman was a decent. It's still not strong enough for us to keep stats on. I think we went back and forth. We lost to Furman. I think actually I have that here. I think we lost to Furman my freshman year. Yeah, 34-31. They cheated that game. They said one of our receivers on the kick return who was out of bounds. If we had instant replay back then, which this shows how old we are. If they had instant replay back then, Jermaine Little would have because we watched the game over. Obviously, every time we watch film, we returned a kickoff back for a touchdown with almost no time left on the clock, and they called it back and said he was out of bounds. Upon further review, he was about 2 inches away from the chalk line. So I don't know what the hell they were looking at, but that cost us the game. So we would have won 38-34. I guess we probably wouldn't have had to kick an extra point. So 37-34 is what we would have won that game. Just a tidbit of information back in 2005, if you care to know about that. Google it, look it up. YouTube, I'm sure, has grainy images of it.
Yeah, there's the way you know that we're old, right? Because like you going back to your playing days, like I'm gonna go show somebody these plays, and you're like,
yeah,
oh, what's going on here?
Yeah. What number were you? I can't read the names. What number were you?
Oh man, but see, this is great because even though that's a totally different team and a different rivalry you're talking about, that shows what could happen in this one, right? Like these guys are paying attention. It matters to them. Those little inches literally come down and make the big time difference. So this one's going to be heated. And the cool part is this one's on national television, ESPNU. So we'll get some pretty good coverage there on that one instead of the.
I'll be tuned in. That's for sure.
Yeah. If something's going on at my house and I can't tune in, YouTube TV, again, no free ads, but we'll be carrying that one on my recorded stuff in case something happens that I don't get to see it. Don't carry a grudge, Warren tells you, TJ.
Yeah, I'm always going to carry a grudge, Warren. It's just there's certain games that you don't forget, and there's certain things like it's no different than Georgia Southern coming to I think my junior year was it the year we beat Michigan or a year before? And it was a year before, in 2006. We're undefeated at home. Georgia Southern comes in, last home game of the year on senior night and beats us. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, it's just stuff like that you don't forget. So,
oh yeah, of course, definitely not. So yeah. Speaking of forgetting, I hadn't jumped back over to Instagram here in a while. The ODU Monarchists jumped on, and they said that they were taking the herd in the one with the herd in Coastal Carolina. So I wanted to give them a shout out. Always like the work they do. And since they are now the featured team on the screen, definitely shout out them. They just partnered with the pride of ODU. As you know, they're kind of monarch and lion. So the pride of ODU, they partnered with the Monarchs there, and they're going to be doing a lot of interviews, a lot of extra behind the scenes stuff. So some cool stuff coming out for ODU fans across the board. In that case, that'll wrap that one up. I mean, I guess I don't know. Did we give a finalize who we thought in that one? I'll go.
Yeah, I said close JMU. I'm taking JMU in a close one. Just when you got two teams that have the ability to play at the level that they do, and then also as close as a rival this is. Yeah, I mean, margin for error is slim to none.
I'm gonna go the opposite side. I'm going to take the home team as JMU has struggled on the road. I think ODU with that game against App State, they had a lot of stuff that they can correct, but correct really easily. Like, I don't think it's going to be one of those things where they had a ton to correct. They moved the ball phenomenally well against App State until the ends of the drive. Like, they moved it all the way to the red zone and then like struggled to get it into the red zone, but they moved it from, inside their own 10 all the way down without a whole lot of trouble a couple times. So I think they're going to be able to move the ball, and I think they could come out with the victory in this one and surprise some people. But again, it's not a huge spread, so I guess it wouldn't be a total shock. In one that to me is a total shock, we've got Georgia State coming into the game against Arkansas State as a 2.5-point favorite. TJ, you can fact check me if that's still accurate to this moment. But it is okay. Yeah, people want to say, why do people think the East is better than the West? Why do you think? Here's a perfect example. Vegas thinks one of the worst teams, and statistically the worst team in the East, is going to come in and beat the second or third place team in the West right now. They're favored coming into the matchup. I don't know. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, I think ESPN and Vegas got it wrong. There is no way in hell I'm taking Georgia State to beat Arkansas State. I mean, I'm not even saying that Arkansas State is going to win by a lot. I mean, maybe a touchdown. It could be only 3 points, but I don't think that Georgia State has played awful all year long. As a matter of fact,
except for Vanderbilt.
As you're going to say, outside of Vanderbilt, they haven't beaten anybody who matters. And it's just I don't know. I don't know what ESPN is thinking. I don't know what Vegas is thinking. But I'm taking Arkansas State to win by at least 7.
Yeah, Ben is saying he says it's only because it's at home, which here's Ben's point on that does make some sense. Okay, so out of the last 5 games, Georgia State's on a 5-game slide. Okay, 4 of those 5 games have been on the road.
Okay,
interesting aspect that I did not realize. So that is an aspect to this. Like that is where they got the victory against Vanderbilt. It was at home. Now, having said that, we all have watched this conference for a long period of time. We all know what Georgia State's home atmosphere is like. So to me, for you to say, well, their favorite at home or the home atmosphere is going to help, or I don't buy it, because unless you say that like playing in front of very few fans is going to affect Arkansas State negatively, I'm not sure, man. I mean, TJ, you've been on the road in some stadiums where there were very few people, I'm sure. So
yeah. Citadel.
Is it hard to play in those games, or is it doesn't really matter at that point when you're down on the road?
It doesn't matter. I mean, obviously playing at home beats, that beats everything. And then you go in places like Georgia Southern where their fans show all the way up, and that's always awesome, right?
Yeah.
You just want it loud, right? I think if A-State doesn't, I think the only way that them being home affects A-State is because it's so damn boring, right? Like you're just sitting on the sideline. I mean, no one wants a boring football game. No one even wants to play in a boring football game. Now, a lot of it you're not thinking about because you're playing and you're trying to win. But I think if crowd or if home field advantage is the thing that they're thinking about in this game, apart from the mileage and just the fact that no one shows up to Georgia State, that would be the only thing that I could think of.
Yeah, I don't know. The next 2 comments, or the last 2 comments here from Artie and from Warren, are kind of funny because they're kind of mirror each other. The plan to beat the Wolves is out now, and the Panthers can use it well. And Warren follows that up with saying ESPN knows something we don't. Just saying. I think Vegas is included in that too, right? I don't think ESPN is making this stuff up. I think they've got a sports book where they know what they're doing. Georgia State Stadium's old Turner Field. Yeah, they do play in the old baseball stadium. And it's, again, so big that it just doesn't make a lot of sense for the crowd that typically shows up to Georgia State games. That's not going to be helped by the 0-5 conference record and 2-7 mark overall. But again, they are favored coming into this one. I would go the opposite direction in this one as well, mainly because if you just look at the average margin of points A-State's putting up.
Right.
They are playing these games relatively close, though, so there is a margin of error, and they did just get hammered 55-19 versus the Cajuns. But I think that Cajun team is being undervalued in that, so that win there, it looks worse for people that are outsiders that don't pay as close of attention. There's probably a lot of people in sports books looking at stats and not necessarily seeing the eye test. And we'll talk about the Cajuns here in a minute, but. Yeah, I think the Red Wolves can move the ball. Obviously, they struggled last week, but that's kind of outside. Before that, they put up 34 points, 44 points. They did only put up 9 against Texas State, so you do, again, have to take that into account. But, again, Texas State, the Cajuns up towards the top of the West, and so those games may be sticking out for other reasons that, aren't necessarily all A-State. They've gone against some good competition. So, yeah, I mean, if you get into a shootout, I'm definitely favoring the Red Wolves in this one. I don't know if you're getting a shootout, though.
For sure.
I don't know. We'll just have to see. But Ben James is saying the Red Wolves take this one by 7. AJ Moore says, let's just say the only thing getting sold out at Georgia State Stadium is the visitors' stands. Well, I will tell you, not for the A-State game, though. That is a heck of a travel.
They don't travel very well.
Other side of Memphis all the way to Atlanta. Again, if you're seeing a team that's consistently filling up the stadium, you probably see a bunch more A-State fans come over, but you're going to tell these people that they can turn on ESPN Plus for a couple bucks a month and stay home to watch a team that they're supposed to get the win over. Well, I guess if Vegas is taking into account, they're not supposed to get the win over, but
Right.
I don't know there. This game's similar to the Southern Miss and Troy game for A-State. Rayner gets it going. Yeah, exactly. Rayner could go off, and then this spread is
and it would be
wrong.
And that's the thing. That's why I'm like, what I don't know what they think they know that we don't know, which they got a whole lot more smart people than we do.
Yeah,
talking to
they get paid for this, TJ. That's the difference.
Yeah.
They get paid.
Yeah, I
well
think
for
that is the difference.
G Will saying, how hot is the seat for Butch if they lose? That is interesting because right now I'm thinking he's not really on the hot seat. Obviously, he's not overperforming. I don't know if I'd say he's really underperforming. I expected a little bit better out of A-State this year, but nothing that was going to blow this out of the. I mean, like if you told me they're your third or wherever they sit currently in the conference, I'd be like, yeah, that's probably where I thought they'd be. So
yeah,
I don't think his seat's kind of hot right now. If he loses this game, I don't know if it gets terribly hot because they could still qualify for a bowl game. And I think that's all that most people would have expected out of this team this year. So
yeah, bowl game, and that's about it, honestly.
Yeah. Vernal Soul, 1355. I like the little graphic there. Gotta say, appreciate the way the Sun Belt has kept divisions and done their scheduling. So this length of a road trip for A-State is only a once a year occurrence. If that, right?
Like
this is cross division. So yeah, I do like the divisions. I like being able to say we have the two best divisions in all of college football. Everyone probably gets sick of me saying that, but it is true. So we can actually harp on it. Ben doesn't think his seat would be hot at all. Only reason why Butch is still A-State is because the AD and then both came from Alabama. Already saying good one, AJ. Yeah, Red Wolves fans should troll them with a huge crowd in hot Atlanta. So yeah, be sure to check this one out. And if you want to win some money, maybe you take the other team to win on the money line because it's a kind of an easy bet. You can probably win a couple bucks for pretty cheap. All right. This next matchup is almost the nightcap. Technically, it starts the same time as the last game. That's what I was fact checking there before I started into this one. But we've got the 8-1, 5-0 in conference Cajuns playing host to 4-5 and 3-2 in conference South Alabama. This one not elevated. I would have liked to seen this one elevated to, ESPN2, ESPNU type of thing. This one stays on the plus, and UL is favored by a total of a touchdown. TJ, that's still accurate?
Yeah. Yep, still accurate.
Okay, 58.5?
Yeah, I was going to say, so is the spread.
Interesting. Okay. I guess there's really not any reason to think that it may have moved, but I always like to check on that one. We've seen Gio Lopez kind of split some reps at the end of games with Davenport, who's kind of that same kind of a dual threat quarterback. I don't know if this one gets out of hand enough to see both guys go in this one. I don't know. You got the Cajuns as a heavy favorite. You think the 7's kind of fair? What do you think in this one? Because you look at the records here and you see a pretty big disparity, but the eye test probably does tell you something a little different.
Yeah. I think it's going to be closer than what most people think or what the record says it should be. 7 points is about right. If they won by 7 to 10, I wouldn't be surprised. Cajuns are going to do Cajun things, right? They're going to play sound defense. They're going to run the ball well, and they're going to throw it on third down when they need to, right? Which has kind of been their recipe all year long. I think Gio is going to be really good outside the pocket. I was going to say Giovanni Bernard. Gio Lopez.
I know why too.
Yeah, right. Get outside the pocket and create some things with his feet. But I do think the overall arching premise of this is that Louisiana is just a better football team. They just top to bottom, they just are. And I think that they come out to this game. Again, I don't think it's going to be a huge margin of victory. I think 7 points is about accurate. I certainly don't think more than 10, like I said earlier, but I think that's about fair. But I got Cajun. Yeah.
I actually think that it could be more. Not a lot more necessarily, but I don't know if it's A-State kind of 55-19 beatdown, because I think South Alabama is definitely more I guess even keeled across the rushing and throwing stats go. But we've seen them shut down as well. And Artie's comment here is interesting. South Alabama went from hero to zero. What happened, guys? Well, one thing that happened, and a huge part of that to me, is the immensely overvalued victory over App State. And we now know that for a fact, right? When it happened, we weren't sure. Was it just a crazy bad game for App State and South Alabama was firing on all cylinders? Now we know South Alabama played really good that night for sure. There's no doubt about that. But App State just isn't very good. And certainly defensively not very good. But even the offense that night was really bad. So I think that's what it was. You got an early game that made everyone go, holy crap, look at this team. Look what they've done. And then they've had, some other decent games, but certainly nothing that was as good as that one since then. I mean, they beat Troy only 25-9. They hammered ULM 46-17. So that one was kind of a little bit of eye opener, especially when ULM had come out to their start, but we knew that they had struggled to score points. That's the part where South Alabama, if they're going to have a good game, they are going to put up the points. Again, like you, TJ, I just think the more consistent team wins this one here. Maybe it's close, like you say, but I'm favoring the Cajuns. And again, I might say that you could put 10.5 on this one and be kind of comfortable in that feeling there. I'm not.
Yeah, I said sure 7 is fair, but I did say if they won by 10, I wouldn't be surprised. 7 to 10 points kind of seems kind of where this win would lie for me. Not easy, but certainly sound.
Right. Makes sense. Makes sense to me. But yeah, this one could be good. I mean, if South is firing on all cylinders and you got a 7-point game late, either direction, I mean, this one wouldn't surprise me. I'll be tuning into. Well, I mean, hell, I tune into all of them, so I guess it's not a surprise. But certainly be checking in on this one a little bit more than this game here, as we see Texas State comes into this matchup against Southern Miss favored by just 26.5 points.
And wow. That's probably not enough.
It might not be. I mean, they beat that total in the first half versus ULM this past week.
Right.
As you touched on earlier,
that's my point. That's my point. They put 21 up 28 up in the first half on a really good defense. They might put up 40 by halftime.
Yeah, and let's be honest. After you put up 28-0 in the first half, you were just coasting to a victory. I mean, yeah, they gave up some points after that to ULM, but I think they were kind of okay with that. Run the ball. It's a bad weather game. Get out of there mostly, injury free and whatnot. We see Ishmael Mahdi, not actually as big of a portion as that as we might have thought because of what the backup quarterback came in and did, surprisingly. But I don't know. I feel like I didn't really hear much about him, and all of a sudden he's like, they're like, he's going to be the next big thing, all this and that. And I'm like, okay, great. I don't know. I want to know from Artie if he feels comfortable with this 26.5 point spread, because yeah, it did happen against ULM in the first half. I don't know if it's easy to replicate 2 weeks in a row, but Texas State didn't get to open up the pass game much, and if they open up the pass game and run the ball well.
Well, and here's the thing. I think it can happen again, or I think it will happen again, because Texas State needs another game to be bowl eligible, and they're not going to play around, right? They're not going to wait until the following week, or they're not going to take – this is a game for Texas State to go ahead and rest the ease of when going into a bowl game, right? We're bowl eligible. Yep. This is our chance to go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and beat them by 30 in the first half. That way there's no question, and let's coast to a victory. So the 26.5 to me seems on point. And it might, again, like I said earlier, it might not even be enough.
Yeah. I mean, they did score 38 points by themselves. We know Southern Miss struggles to find the end zone. Again, whatever the statistic, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. The touchdown to interception ratio is incredibly ugly for Southern Miss this season. So, actually, I'm going to bring that up because I every time I read it, I can't believe it's actually true. And while I'm pulling that up, I already said, eat them up, Cats. Time to get bowl eligible and move Dom and TJ's power rankings, which, I mean, I don't think we have Texas State ranked too bad ourselves. They're definitely earning some respect after this last dominant performance there. And Artie says he's a good QB. For once, I feel comfortable we'll win big. Okay, so he does feel comfortable in that 26.5 points. Yes, 4 total touchdowns to 13 interceptions for Southern Miss quarterbacks. That's 3 of them combined this season. There you go. So if Texas State opens up the scoreboard and lights it up like we think they are capable of, don't expect Southern Miss to put up much of a fight the other direction. I'd probably take Texas State, the points, the total, all of it. Hammer it.
Yeah, the whole thing. You take the whole thing. You're not going to win a lot of money on this game.
Yeah, pretty comfortably too. On top of all of this, they have an interim head coach at Southern Miss, and they just fired their offensive coordinator. So it continues to kind of get worse for those guys over there. They would definitely surprise me if this game is within any kind of 2 to 3 touchdown score. I'd be shocked.
I'm with you.
26.5 though. Like, could it be 24? It's still an impressive victory. It's not quite the spread. I don't know. But yeah. I would lean the other direction. I would lean to say go with the over. AJ said, who you have winning each game? What do you think the power rankings could look like? Not a definitive, but an idea. How about we save and table that one for Sunday, because that one's opening up another can of worms, and we can talk that with Marv and Seth, or at least one of the two. G. Wills is saying this one maybe a running clock come the second half, and that one definitely could be the outcome. It's also homecoming. Wear your Southwest Texas throwback gear. Yeah, it's a great look if you've got it. Definitely check that one out as the again, not necessarily the lone nightcap, but those last 2 games that we just talked about there both kick off at 7 Eastern, 6 Central time. Sounds like perfect nightmare if you're Texas State trap game for the Bobcats, if you ask me. I don't think this one's a trap game. I don't think. No. If you had a more talented team than Southern Miss, I could agree with that. If you had
they're just not good.
No, it's the defense could put up a decent fight. Honestly, I think it's possible, but the offense can give you nothing. It's kind of the opposite of App State, right? The App State offense can actually keep you in a game,
right?
I don't know if the Southern Miss defense could keep you in a game, but it's way more possible on that side of the ball. Their offense is
just
horrendous.
Yeah,
and App State's defense is kind of that direction right now as well. So now we get to another fun thing. XM Radio just went hard on this yesterday or the day before, and I thought it was really, really interesting. Before we totally move on, G-Will's got one more thing. USM is 0-1 with a spread of more than 25.5 points, or 25.5 to 29.5 points, and 1-3 against the spread on the road. Lay the points. Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that one. Okay, so again, fun stuff. XM Radio just had this the other day, so we're gonna have our own little fun with it now, because I thought the results were very interesting. They're asking for what fans thought was the best kickoff time for a college football team, of your favorite team, whether you're watching on TV, whether you're being there in person. Obviously, some of those answers might be different because of convenience, but just overall, what would you say your favorite kickoff time is? I actually gave TJ a little warning on this, and I think I know which way he's going to go. But TJ, let us know, first of all, you started off with which one would be yours.
So it depends. So I'm looking at this from 2 perspectives, because I played and then I'm also now a fan, right? So if I'm playing, give me the noon game. I want to go ahead and get mine over with. I want to, because I'm when I wake up in the morning, 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever, we pregame, go through all your pregame stuff. We have essentially what would be pregame dinner at 9 a.m. So big pregame breakfast. You start warming up at 10, kick off at 12. You're done by 3:30, 4 o'clock, right? So for me as a player, now we didn't have a lot of those games in Boone because it would just, frankly, the turf is really hot. And then also, just temperature wise, I think they just didn't want to play it at those times. So 3:30 was kind of our slot. So which still wasn't awful, right? We got done at 7:30 and we were able to kind of hang out a little bit before we went to go party the night before or the night after or night of a football game. But if you're talking, my favorite time to play would be 12 o'clock. Now, as a fan, I'm taking the 7 o'clock as my favorite time slot. Reason for that is because, well, I don't know, because I like 3:30, because as an adult, I can day drink, right? 3:30 slot means, you start drinking, you get your lunch or breakfast and lunch. You got 2 good solid meals in, crack your beer open at 2:30, and then you got your 3:30 games, and then you kind of roll into that 7 o'clock. And then, so if I had to pick a favorite as a fan, I'm looking at this from a lot of perspectives, because I sit outside on my back deck and it's cold. So 7 o'clock games can get cold. right? I think maybe 3:30 might be the best time, from a fan perspective. But 7 o'clock games are great if you have kids because they're going to bed soon after. You don't got to get, they're not going to bother you. Most people, kids my age or the age of my kids, their kids are going to bed around 8:30, 9 at the latest. So by halftime, your kids are in bed. Second half is all you in football. So I'd probably say from just being an adult, 7 o'clock is probably the best time frame for a fan.
Okay. Well, so we got some other fans chiming in. So Vernasol says, no, you can't have noon games. That disrespects the brand. It's unfair. So I'm kind of in agreement with that. To me, noon games are just I feel like kind of rushed. Like if you want to do a tailgate, it feels kind of rushed. You're rushing to get out there by like 5, 6, 7 a.m. to like get your setup done, get everything cooked or grilled you want to do, get it all packed back away. Like you said, TJ, you've got hot temperatures at the beginning part of the year, putting all that stuff back in your vehicle for long periods of time as a fan. Now, the player perspective, I obviously can't speak on. Didn't play football. I guess I could speak on other aspects when I've played games as in other sports. But it just, I don't know. As a fan, the 12 noon is just a little too early for me. Like 1 o'clock is actually a little bit better, not greatly better, but not bad.
But I will tell you this. There's nothing like a good pregame breakfast, right?
True. Oh, pregame, like tailgate brunch.
Yeah, so like I've gone to some early games as a fan, right? Some 12 o'clock games. We get out there 8 o'clock, right? Cook everything, whipping it up because normally that's going to be on the skillet. You're not really grilling a whole lot, so that's going to be on the skillet. Eggs, bacon, whatever hash browns, whatever you're cooking. You're done by 9. You've already eaten. From 10 o'clock, you start drinking, and that's the true definition of day drinking. Because then after that game is over at 3:30, 4 o'clock, you take you a quick nap and you're ready to. Ready for the second half of your night. So it's not all bad.
No, that's true. I do like the tailgate breakfast. I feel like it's an easier thing to plan, right? Like you can bring eggs and bacon and stuff pretty easily instead of like some bigger sections of meat that you typically would do for, a lunch or a dinner. So that does make sense. Vernasol says he prefers 3:30 games personally, seconded by noon games, and night games are which is surprising. Artie Cat prefers the 7 o'clock game. Warren says 3:30 from a fan perspective, drive in and drive out. They actually, I remember sitting in the stands for a spring game of one of you guys. I think you were still in school and on the team when I was in the stands back in the day. They came around like the Yosef Club members and was asking fans and people in the stands, because obviously those are like your hardcore football fans of the team that come into a spring practice, right? Which they preferred, what kickoff time they preferred. And a lot of people were saying the 3:30 because a lot of people, as TJ, you and I know, and a lot of the fans now know, coming in and off the mountain, there's not a whole lot of people that actually live there. The town size more than doubles during game day. Getting in and out is important aspect of the game day atmosphere for a lot of people. And that 3:30 time slot is nice because typically, especially early part of the season, you're getting in and out with light before you're really hitting too much darkness going down the highways on either direction. G. Wills says 3:30 for homecoming, 7 p.m. night games make for epic atmospheres and give the game day crew more things to do. Fireworks, light shows, drone shows. ODU had a really cool one. That's probably why he's saying that. But I haven't seen a drone show done for any other team. I don't think. Possible Texas State. Maybe if Artie Cat can let us know. Maybe Texas State might be the only one I think may have done something like that. But Artie Cat does bring up the point. Texans are used to night games due to the heat and high school football and it being kind of that highlight of the thing. And he was saying that 11 a.m. kickoff last week against ULM was weird. And pregame Waffle House is the GOAT, Vernasol says. That's interesting. Waffle House Dojo. I think it might turn into a dojo late at night. Yeah, for me, I mean,
right.
The 3:30 aspect from, I now am a season ticket holder that lives 3 hours from 3 Sunbelt teams, but specifically App State where the season tickets are being held at. But I could get to Coastal in about the same amount of time. I can get to ODU in about the same amount of time. Just a slight bit longer, about 4 hours to get to James Madison from me, I believe. So that 3:30 slot on a Saturday actually works pretty well. But to me, it's hard to ever beat a night game. It just, I don't know. I'm kind of with G Wills. Like, it just, the atmosphere is better. Like,
it just feels
the fireworks hit different when it's pitch black darkness and they're going off. You get fireworks throughout the day and you're like, okay, like I saw it for a split second. It feels kind of like the nostalgia is gone. I'll tell you this, just as an example, Marshall came to App State a couple years ago. I took my son. He was like asleep by the third quarter. But, the fireworks go off. The team enters under the lights with the fireworks going off. The fireworks smoke billows down into the thing. It's like a fog almost laying over the field.
Mm-hmm.
And TJ, you remember those days too, because two of my most favorite games in Boone of all time involved the teams you were on when we hosted Wofford for Halloween and Richmond for a playoff game. And those are some of the best atmospheres in college football I've ever seen and certainly ever been a part of live. And you can say what you want about the stadium size and all this and that. Those places were loud as hell. People were really into it. The atmosphere was amped up a notch because it was a night game. So for me, nothing ever will beat a 7:00 kickoff. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see that. I think the big outcome of this poll across a couple of platforms, I think, is how XM kind of held it, was 3:30. So it seems like that's an important aspect. Get in not too early and get out not too late, and kind of have the focal point of your day. I guess
it depends on it depends on your age, right? And if you have kids, and there's a lot of factors, right? Because like if you're talking to 25-year-old me, then I would love to be a night game me to death, because I'm full go. But if you're talking about me now as a father and a husband and somebody who don't want to be super hungover at on Sunday morning trying to leave the mountain, then 3:30 is fine, because then game's over around 7:30. I can get back to the hotel or get back to the cabin, whatever it is I'm doing, pump myself full of water or Gatorade, eat something real good, hang out with my kid, wake up the next morning and we're off. So depends on what version of me you're talking to. So to put it in its proper perspective, or I guess to put a bow on it, for me, 12 o'clock if I'm playing, 3 o'clock for the adult version, husband, father, and then 7 p.m. me 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So there you go.
I kind of go with that. I'd still probably, for me personally, because I never played the game of football, I would kind of eliminate 12 noon for me. Although, like when you're home, 12 noon's great, right? You just roll off game day. You turn on the first game, whatever one you want, because there's so many that kick off at noon. But I could see the aspect of that, right? Like noon Eastern is really early West Coast wise. It's a little early Central wise. It's 11 a.m. So like I get that aspect where like 12 noon's not going to win over a lot of people for the couple of those things.
Sure.
Warren agreeing with you, saying yes, age does matter. Older fans for sure. 3:30.
3:30. Yeah, you get your kids, man. Listen, kids matter. I'm telling you right now, it matters. You don't want your kids getting up too early and you got to go pregame and tailgate and do all that stuff. 7 o'clock and you're fighting them to get shoes and they forgot this and you got to go back and get that. And I know right? I mean, that's annoying. Yeah. So that's certainly not what you want. And then 7 o'clock is that's an absolute no for me, for my son. That's an absolute no. So 3:30 is when you get to this age, 3:30 is it. Now maybe when I'm 50 or 60 and my son's in college, I'll go back to 7 o'clock and then I can sleep in.
There you go. Yeah, you like the sleep in factor. Yeah, the part you missed me with was that really hungover stage. I don't want to be hungover at all. So
yeah, I don't either. But sometimes, you got the friends.
Sometimes you participate a little too strongly and it happens, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. But I think that I like the bow you put on that, and I do agree with you for the most part that the 3:30 and 7 are probably my top two for as a fan, and that's kind of the aspect you said for those two. So I think I agree with you on those two. And this looks like G Will is saying going to need to bust headlights out for the tailgate next week against Marshall. Sunset at 4:50. Yeah, that's that.
Whoever came up with daylight savings is an idiot. What are you saving? What are you doing?
I actually got a comment from a JMU fan on this. I don't know which episode we had said it on, but somebody was ripping me for the comment that I made was associated with farming back in the day. He said that's not factual at all. He says the cows get milked twice a day, no matter if the sun's up or down. Which, I'll be honest, I've just heard that from multiple people and just kind of always took it as kind of some fact. I mean, I never thought it was all that important to fact check it. So I'll say that I never really looked into it. Apparently, the actual and real reason that daylight savings times exists is because it saves millions, if not billions of dollars in energy from electricity and whatnot. But then I said, I don't know how that makes sense to me, because if you put everybody inside because of how dark it is early, you're turning more stuff on inside.
Lights are on. Yeah, lights are on. And also, at the time daylight savings was invented, that was not at the top of this guy's mind.
Yeah.
Saving
electricity. Yeah. The electricity needed didn't exist like it does now. You've got Wi-Fi and routers and
that's my point. Yeah. That's stupid.
Yeah. So the argument was again, maybe it is pretty factual. It just doesn't seem to hold a whole lot of weight for me. Plus, he said it also had to do with mental health. I'm like, well, 5 years ago, people didn't care about mental health. So whenever this daylight savings time came out, no one gave a damn about mental health. I can tell you that. And honestly, I don't know a single person who says they're happier when daylight savings times hit. I know all kinds of people are like, I hate it. I don't like what it makes me feel, all this stuff. So interesting that was thrown out there. Again, maybe pretty factual. I still haven't fact checked it myself yet.
So actually, I'm looking it up now. It was invented. It was introduced in Germany in 1916 as a way to save energy during World War I. The United States followed suit in 1918 with the Standard Time Act, which was signed by law by President Woodrow Wilson. The U.S. initially implemented daylight savings time as a wartime measure, but repealed it a year later. So save energy.
Wartime measure, huh?
Yeah, right. So save energy. Yes, I guess if you're talking war, but they didn't have the things that we had in 1916. They barely had outhouses. Like, what are we doing? No, I'm joking. They had working toilets, but it's just like, what are you talking about? Anyway, whatever.
Here we go. Here's a couple good comments. So we'll talk on the thing, because Artie has some good points here too. He says, it started for World War II, less cars on the road and needed for homes, but he still says he agrees with us. It's so outdated. Name the only state that doesn't use it. That's easy. That's Arizona. Warren says just pick one and leave it alone. Agreed. If you could at least keep it consistent, then I'm fine with it. Artie also says when you're watching App State this year, drinking helps. Yes.
That is a fact.
We may have been imbibing a little bit last Thursday, so if watching from TV at home, rolling out of bed on Saturday at noon to watch a game seems hard to beat. Yeah, I mean that's one aspect that's nice about the 12 noon games. Like, you're still just hanging out in your pajamas. Like TJ said, maybe you've eaten a little bit of a brunch, late brunch, whatever. Mm-hmm. Just hang out and veg. Those noon games are fun for that. And if it's boring hell, just take a nap. Then you're right back in.
Try to play with your son. My son likes to kick soccer balls now, so he's trying to aim for that high 90. He learned it in school, and now that's all he wants to do. So
nice. I can respect that.
Yeah, of course. I figured you'd like
soccer guy. The soccer guy in me respects the soccer goal or training. I guess I should say.
It's hard to find a sport that he can't play.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Yeah, big kid too. I finally saw him in person for the first time Thursday.
Yeah, he's a pretty big dude. I don't know how, but he's pretty big.
Yeah, so big things on the lookout for him. We've just made contact with a future recruit for JMU Dukes, who hails from TJ's area of the state of North Carolina. We hope to have him on soon, so something to look forward to for you Duke fans that tune in. Artie's got one more thing. People in the 19th century and before had no electricity, practice for 4 hours sleep, wake up for several hours till the rooster crowed. Yeah, set it and forget it. Best policy regarding time changes. Yep. You, Warren, and myself, and I think TJ all agree on that. Sounds like Artie Cat is in favor of that as well. Okay, well, we've gone just over an hour and a half. I was hoping we'd kind of be more succinct in this one as far as time goes, but you know what? It's okay. We get off topic because that's where people want us to go with the conversation, and that's why we do it. So thank you all for tuning in very much. TJ, you want to close us out here?
Yeah, man. Thanks, guys, for having us, and thank you for tuning in as always. And this has been a fun night. So we will see you guys next time.